Interesting how we get all the note takers coming in as well these days.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love this
yeah.
idea that you can actually turn up for a meeting, but you're not actually there.
Yeah, well, I can relate heavily to that. I've got several testing environments for building Posterity, so sometimes when I join a meeting, five of my meeting note takers alone join a meeting.
Fantastic.
I really enjoy this format though, instead of the traditional Zoom webinar format, the one where people actually, we're just in a big Zoom call, you
Yep,
know?
exactly. Yeah, personally, I don't the Zoom webinar format. It doesn't quite work as well as the meeting. So
Mm.
people can chip in. No, we got here that I can recognise. Oh, quite a few. There's Mr. Squibb there. Good morning. How's Cornwall today?
When I can turn my mute off, it's wonderful. Thank you. Blue skies as always, Phil.
Good. Love it. Absolutely fantastic. You got your appropriate snacks, have you, Jeremy?
Just water this morning.
Oh,
Passed it
okay.
away.
Fantastic. Who else have we got there? There's Neil. Morning, Neil. There's Paul. There's Sue. Nice to see you. Who else have we got here? And there's Victor. Nice to see you too.
Morning all.
Okay.
Morning, all.
Right. I'm going to crack on. We may have a few others that we have to let in as we go, but that will be fine. Anybody who wants to ask questions, feel free as we go, and we're going to make sure that you get a recording. Really appreciate everybody turning up today because there's a lot of industry webinars on today. So thank you for choosing this one and for giving up some of your time. So this is part of a six-part series that I'm running on AI, where we're going to be featuring industry leaders in the AI space. Everybody is talking about AI at the moment, and I'm going to introduce my guest Elliott Perry in just a moment or two. For those of you that where we haven't met before, my name is Phil Calvert. I'm a marketing consultant for financial advisors, been doing it rather a long time, and I'm the founder of Life Talk, which is the world's longest running online community for financial advisors. We just passed 18 years on Facebook, and we were going about 3 or 4 years before that. Does anybody remember MySpace?
Hmm.
It was back in the day, so we had a bit of a presence on MySpace, and there may be one or two of you who might remember Academy, which was kind of the forerunner to LinkedIn, which is kind of where we started. So AI, everyone's talking about it. Let's just first of all ask Elliot to introduce yourself. Who are you? And tell us a bit about your business and one or two things we need to know about how you got to be where you are today.
So thing, good morning all. Um, I've been a tech entrepreneur for the last 12 years or so. I managed to have a few little successes in that time, sold a couple of companies, certainly had plenty of cratering failures as well. But my two successful companies actually used precursor technologies to modern generative AI, so machine learning and big data analysis. Uh, the journey took me to San Francisco, which was wonderful for my sins. Did my pilgrimage to the tech mecca, and had a company that sold there, and I joined them for head of marketing. They subsequently sold to Logitech for about 160 million, so got wrapped up in a pretty sizable tech exit. This was pre-pandemic, and I made a little bit of money through that process, but I did not have very good financial literacy. We don't learn this stuff at school. And I quickly found myself not growing and holding on to this wealth that I'd built. And, candidly between us here, sort of frittered it away. And that was a big rude awakening for me, the importance of um, financial intelligence, financial literacy, getting a handle on your finances. And so I've become very interested with this industry. I came as an outsider in just learning, got myself a financial advisor, got very interested in the tech that we're using to service me. What's this thing that looks like it was built in the 80s? Why is this process taking so long? What's happening here? And my tech brain got very, very curious and felt, oh, looks like there's an opportunity to build something here. And so for the last couple of years, we've been embarking on a mission to figure out what that is. And a year ago, we were sort of fumbling around figuring out what to build for you guys. But a year ago, it became quite obvious when we used ChatGPT for the first time. Was blown away. Thought, wow, this is a completely radical new technology. This is going to fundamentally change the way businesses are built and how they function. And we doubled down on AI, and we've been doing that ever since. So for the last year, we've been building AI tools for advisors. I'm sure we'll get into specifically what it looks like, but it began with an AI note taker and then expanded from there.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you very much. It's really interesting when I look at the membership of Life Talk. We're coming up 4,500 on Facebook. We've got about 7,000 in the LinkedIn group as well. What I'm seeing from my kind of helicopter vantage is, lots of questions about AI coming up. But what I'm seeing is quite a lot of overwhelm amongst many advisors. There's a lot of tools out there, and there's seemingly something new every day. So a lot of overwhelm. I'm also seeing a lot of underwhelm, with a lot of advisors saying, "Well, what's the fuss about all this? I don't really get it." There's a bunch of advisors who aren't particularly fussed either way, and that's fine. But there's also quite a small percentage of advisors who are looking at AI as simply the most exciting thing they've ever seen throughout the industry, the profession, the opportunity that it brings to so many aspects of the businesses. I've spent quite a bit of time pondering and talking to people like Elliott around where's this all going. And broadly speaking, we can see 5 different scenarios developing. Scenario 1, we all carry on as we are now. AI comes in as essentially a new bit of tech, and that's fine. But we don't really advance much as a profession. And I think that's a shame in many respects. I think there's so much opportunity with AI that just using it as another bit of tech is not a waste, but we'll just have faster horses at the end of the day, and we're not really moving the profession forward. Scenario 2, which many people believe is very real. I don't, but many people believe that there will be no more advisors in 5 to 10 years' time. And I think that the threat is really, if you're an advisor and you are ignoring AI and the tools that are available to you and support you, then that most definitely is a threat. Scenario 3, there'll actually be more advisors. Instead of AI taking advisors out of the picture, there'll actually be a need for more. Because advisors will be needed for more complex financial planning scenarios, and because we can be significantly more productive year on year, that gives us the opportunity to do more stuff. So scenario 1, we carry on. Number 2, no more advisors. Number 3, there'll actually be more advisors. Number 4, to me, is one of the most exciting opportunities, and that is where we can use AI to literally transform what we're doing, and indeed transform what the whole profession does. The ability to create completely new business models based around financial advice, financial education, and we can do this at scale, very low cost, and very quickly indeed. This concept of the advice gap, however you want to define that, we can run educational ideas completely alongside. And it's worth mentioning the likes of Pete Matthew at this stage, who's got a traditional financial planning firm, 21 or so advisors I think he's got, but alongside it he runs a financial education piece as well, which is proving to be very popular. Thank you very much indeed. And final scenario 5 is an interesting one, where because of med tech and AI in other aspects of society, people will be living very, very much longer. So the role of a financial advisor will change really quite dramatically. I was at an event yesterday run by Unbiased, where the whole theme of the event was around wealth transfer from generation to generation. And how do we get to a point where a financial planner is in a position to be able to offer financial planning services right across the piece to the existing clients and to their kids and potentially their kids' kids. But even there, with people living longer, it is entirely feasible that a financial planner could take on a client and have that client for 50 years or so. I think in reality, if we look at those five scenarios, we'll probably have a bit of a blend of them all. That's the way these things always go. It's never hard and fast. But we are, despite how advanced AI is right now and already, and people still on a daily basis say their jaws drop at some of the things that even ChatGPT can do. We've got some very exciting tools. So it's great that Elliot, you are here to help us. So just let's dig a bit deeper into where you saw the opportunity for the solution that you've got. Why is note taking, and I put note taking sounds desperately basic for what you actually do, but why did you kind of pick on that area?
Yeah, it's let's talk about the broader philosophy of what we are going to apply AI to this space to achieve, and then narrow it down to why we thought that this was the obvious starting point. So I think at the 10,000 foot level, what this technology allows us to do is minimize, and I think we're going to see this across all industries, is something like this. If the job is typically 30% machine right now and 70% human, we're going to see that flipped on its head. And so the machine can now do the majority of the heavy lifting, leaving the human to do that bit at the top. And so for every 1 hour of face-to-face advice right now, let's say there's, when I speak to firms, anywhere between 3, 4, sometimes as many as 5 hours of behind-the-scenes work that needs doing. That's going to reduce down the ratio of face-to-face advice to admin and compliance work. And obviously, the benefits of that are to give people back their time, to either provide a more high touch point concierge experience with their clients, to invest in the growth of the business, or the myriad of other things that you guys do. I'm honestly surprised at how multifaceted a financial advisor has to be to run the companies you guys do. Business builders, therapists, yeah, a bit of everything. Give you back some time to do all of that wonderful work. AI is really good at dealing with unstructured data, with messy, complex tasks.
Mhm.
Previously, I'm a software engineer. I've been building software for the last 12 years. It was like math. It was 2 plus 2 equals 4. And it was about building these objective sort of mathematical equations. AI is a bit more like the arts, it's a bit of finesse. You got to seduce it a bit into doing what you want. And as a result, it's much better at just dealing with large, unstructured data. Of course, a human conversation is the perfect example of an unstructured data. There's so much information that passes hands between an advisor and a client. Obviously, it's the primary touch point of delivering the advisory experience. And there's lots of information exchanging hands there. So capturing that unstructured data and turning it into structured data is a really obvious use case for AI. And so that's why we thought it was both one of the most important areas to focus on, intersecting with one of the jobs that AI is best at.
Interesting. I mean, I don't want you don't have to give away any trade secrets. Um, when you look at the typical financial advisor's tech stack that exists, it's now starting to get quite big and quite detailed. I mean, nothing compared with the tech stack in the States, but
Mm.
it's pretty good. And one of the things I hear from IFAs all the time is how little integration there is between different tech tools. How do you see that playing out? And indeed, where do you fit into that?
Well, it's tough as us, a young upstart coming from the tech world. We're very used to integrating. All of my previous companies used to go into an ecosystem and build to integrate, and a lot of the solutions there provide the means to do so. In this industry, I think we suffer from a few problems. One of them is just a lot of the archaic tech wasn't built. Sometimes we come along and we say we want to integrate with this platform, for example. Platform doesn't provide the means to integrate. Okay, well, that's a non-starter. Sometimes there's misaligned incentives. I won't name names, but some of the big solutions out there have very heavily gated access to their API connections and actually want a revenue share of everybody that we connect to, even if we brought the customer. So they didn't even bring the customer to us, but it's our customer. They now want to take some of our revenues. So a lot of the existing tools make it quite difficult to integrate. But I think that this is something that we're just going to see evolve over time. All of the new solutions coming to market, I think, have a very collaborative attitude with regards to integration. And obviously, I think we all share the ethos that we want to diminish the administrative and compliance burden for you guys. You're doing so much heavy lifting. Keying in information to several systems is one of the key areas that we can reduce the administrative burden. And so rest assured that everybody that's building now this next generation of software that's come to market wants to reduce that burden for you guys, and are trying our very best to do so.
Yeah, interesting. I guess when you talk about data, financial planners by definition are dealing with quite sensitive data. And if you are providing a tool where we are literally recording the live meetings that are taking place, tell us about how you approach security. And let's take how different are you to say to a tool, say like Fireflies, for sake of argument. I use Fireflies all the time. I absolutely love it. I've no idea where the data goes, but I'm not dealing with private content that shouldn't really be getting out. So how do you deal with the security aspects?
Yeah, so obviously in this industry where we're holding and processing some of the most confidential information that you could conceivably hold on people. And so data privacy and security should be the utmost concern of anybody building in this area, us included. Obviously, us personally, we're a UK-based company, so we're fully GDPR compliant, as every UK company has to be by law. Our data servers are here in the UK. They conform to the highest possible conceivable safety protocols and standards. And we don't do anything silly with data. It's your data. We're a data controller. You are the owner of your data. We don't use it to train AI models. We don't use it you don't sell it. We don't do all of the usual stuff. And I would hope and expect that everybody that's building in this area is holding themselves to the similar standard. The complexity comes in that a lot of the innovation for these tools is coming from the US. The US is obviously not bound by the rules of GDPR. It's foolish for anybody building a company in the US, any sizable company, not to be GDPR compliant, obviously, or else they would, be engaging with the entire economic bloc of the EU. So we are seeing a commitment from OpenAI, for example, to be GDPR compliant. But you're right to point out that additional tools that are built on top of that, like Fireflies, if anybody's going to go out there and adopt these tools, they need to ask, are these tools GDPR compliant? Are they publicly stating that they are GDPR compliant, that they're complying with the necessary processes? And I think it's really important to understand if you're going to run a buying process, this is obviously going to be a key consideration when running a buying process for one of these tools. And, you want to be asking, where does my data go? Who are the sub-processors? If I give my data to you, where are you handing my data off to? Making sure that all of those sub-processors are also GDPR compliant. We know that the FCA requires us to run that check. And obviously, companies like us that are building in the UK are making sure that we conform to that.
Interesting. So for those people that perhaps aren't using recording meetings yet, talk us through the kind of benefits of recording them and the outputs that your solution gives them.
Yeah, sounds great.
Feel free to show it as well if that would be easier.
Certainly, yeah. Actually, I think a picture Which paints a thousand words. So maybe I can actually show you guys what this looks like. The solution's obviously live in the wild. It's used by, uh, as of latest counts, over 500 advisors in the UK. Can you see my screen? Is it visible?
Yeah, I can certainly see it.
And is the text high fidelity enough to read? It's not blurry?
Yeah, looks pretty good to me.
Great. So starting with our AI meeting note taker, this is something that works across in-person meetings and virtual meetings. So for in-person meetings, this would be our mobile apps that are available on iOS and Android. Works just like a voice dictation app. You would hit the record button, put it somewhere between you and the clients, and it'll pick up that conversation. If it's a virtual meeting, it's just a faceless, nameless participant that joins on a Zoom call, Google Meet call, or a Microsoft Teams call. In both cases, it records the conversation and then it analyzes it. It listens to the intonation in people's voices, the signature of that voice to identify distinct speakers. It will then understand people referring to one another by name to pick out who the speakers' names are. And then it will compile a full transcript of the conversation, which you can see here. So this is the AI that has automatically created a full transcript of the conversation. This usually happens within 5 minutes of you having the meeting. So if you've had this meeting out at a client's home, by the time you drive back to the office, all of what you see here will be ready for you when you get back. It records the full recording, which you have and can play back. And this is coming through my earphones. You obviously won't hear it on the call, but you can have access to the full recording should you ever want to listen back, hear exactly what the client said, how they said it. But you've got a full transcript here. You can search through the transcript. So I think I know that there was a discussion about an accountant here. You can even click onto that moment in the transcript. It'll jump to it in the audio. You can listen back and hear the full discussion. So you've got the entire audit of the conversation on file to listen back to, should you ever need to, in the case of a file check, or God forbid, a complaint, if that happens. But most advisors obviously don't crawl through a big transcript. What they use it for is the automatically formatted meeting notes. So what we've trained the AI to do is understand the important details to capture for a conversation between an advisor and a client and automatically produce the formatted meeting notes that advisors would typically draft themselves. And so walking you through it quite quickly. We've got the regulated advice up here in the top left-hand corner, summary of the actual advice that was given, all of the follow-up action points divided by client and firm. And for all of the information that we collect, you can drill down and see the excerpt in the transcript that it relates to. So you've always got that audit trail back to how the AI is extracting these things from the transcript. Got the client's objectives here. I don't think these are particularly profound. I think this was an annual review meeting with a client that's been with the firm many years. But again, because we pull through an excerpt from the transcript, it's really easy to lift clients' own words for reporting that we know that the FCA is getting hot on. So in the case of here, providing for the children's private school education, you can see the client's really quite emotive language when talking about that particular objective. Then we've got the summary of the conversation in its totality, broken down into really easy to digest chunks. So each one has a header of the key discussion area, the context of the discussion point, the actual discussion that unfolded, and the recommendations that were given. So let's take one, for example, cash management and ISA contributions. So the situation was Jessica's got about 100,000 in cash. It's just kind of sitting there underutilized. The discussion was it's sitting there idle. Could we do something while still accounting for the liquidity needs? And then the advisor made some specific ISA recommendations. And so you've got the entire conversation broken down into those key areas. Really interestingly, the AI is typically very, very good at extracting all of the key discussion areas. But if there's something that you really want to dial into, in this particular instance, I recall, as we looked in the transcript, that there was a recommendation for an accountant. So if I just type in accountant recommendation, with just those two words and hitting the enter button, the AI is going to take that return to the conversation that you had with the client, and then extract the discussion that you had concerning that area and pull through fully structured meeting notes. So again, you've got the context of the discussion. Jessica was dissatisfied with her current accountant. There was a discussion to be had. This is what I'm really looking for in an accountant. This is what I value, and that they weren't serving me. And then I recommended, in this fictitious example, I'm not an advisor, I recommended Ron, the favorite accountant that we work with. And so imagine reducing now typing up meeting notes for a meeting to typing 2 words and hitting the enter button. That's what the power of AI is enabling us to do. So just flying over the remaining tabs here, we've got all of the quantifiable pieces of information that we discussed automatically extracted into hard facts. This is investment balances, income amounts, property valuations, even things like stepped expenditure here, school fees that change over time, increase through the years. It's going to capture all of that automatically. Usually when advisors use the software, this is one of the key areas that they're impressed with. We've got the soft facts, those all-important relationship and rapport building items that don't necessarily make itself into the cash flow forecast, but are really important all the same. I really like this one. Jessica's 2 sons, Arthur and Walter, performing in their school's production of the musical Annie. Arthur is a dog, Walter is a laundryman. I have never seen Annie to know whether or not those are good roles, but obviously could ask Jessica in 6 months' time whether their sons are leading thespians now. And actually, one of the surprise benefits as outsiders coming into this industry is a lot of advisors have since told us that they're now entirely reliant on this AI note taker. They don't take notes at all during a meeting. And so they can just give their client their undivided attention. And as a result, they've found that they've just been able to go a bit deeper conversationally and asking a lot of these soft questions that went down a lot of rabbit holes, knowing that the AI is picking that up and that it's all going to be captured, and then they can refer back to it later. And so that's a nice little benefit that we weren't expecting when we built this. And then finally, compliance. And so this area is focused on 4 key areas. Any discussion related to risk. So if a client has explicitly affirmed that they are happy to move forward with a particular risk profile, even after a discussion unfolding, after you've risk profiled them, maybe they were a bit risk averse when they filled in the risk profile, and after the discussion, you've decided to move them up. That's going to be explicitly captured here, and then them saying they're prepared to move forward, even when you've outlined what that risk profile means, the potential volatility and the potential for loss. So they can't, possibly say that they didn't agree to it because it's here on record on file. And then the 3 other areas have a key focus on the most recent consumer duty regulations. So we've got vulnerable circumstances, identifying client vulnerabilities that you may want to take into account, price and fair value. This is usually just getting quotes of the client, saying how amazing and worth your fees you are so that you can file that with the SCA. And then client understanding, just little red flags if the client is communicating in a way that suggests that they're not actually understanding what you're saying and they're just sort of nodding along, in which case we're hearing a lot of advisors use this as a mechanism to ensure that they're communicating in a way that the client is definitely understanding what's being said to them.
Can you
using techniques
interrogate
like
down into that and kind of get what was it that they specifically said that maybe suggested they were potentially vulnerable or not quite understanding it?
Yeah, so all of this stuff is trained on the FCA's guidance. So in vulnerable circumstances, I remember they've got this particular resource, and it's just got all of the key areas, life circumstances, a divorce, a bereavement, things related to addiction, all the usual stuff, the typical classification matrix. We just plugged into this, and so it's just looking for key indicators in the speech that would suggest that they would fall into any one of those buckets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the FCA isn't prescriptive on this stuff. Maybe you guys, us as a service provider certainly does. Maybe you guys have a bit of frustration sometimes with the FCA's guidance on this. I wish it was as simple as them just giving us a flow chart to say how to identify someone as vulnerable, in which case we just plug that in.
Yeah.
But they're not as prescriptive as that. So all we can do is follow their guidance to highlight things that you may potentially want to take into account as a firm and make your own judgments.
I mean, that's fabulous. I love the facts side of it as well, which all the things coming up, and you can pick up sentiment and things like that. I've got a few advisors I know who are using, however they record their meeting. Um, they will then anonymize it, drop it into ChatGPT,
Mm,
and say to it things like, "Can you identify any opportunities that we might have missed as advisors
mm,
to suggest the client might want to refer us to a friend?" In other words, they expressed that they had received value during the meeting. And it's very often things like people nodding, go, "Yeah, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I understand that." Or
mm.
my next door neighbor might find that useful. Those expressions of value that, as an advisor, sometimes we pick them up, sometimes we miss them. Um, is your tool able to pick up things like that if we were to interrogate it?
Yeah, exactly right. In that area where there was the summary, that's where you could enter whatever you want to interrogate the transcript.
Yeah,
And I think we're seeing that originally when we designed the tool, we said we don't want advisors to contort their speech. We want them to just conduct the client meetings as usual, and the tool just works seamlessly in the background. We didn't want advisors to have to learn new things that come with a
yeah,
playbook, a manual, make things as easy as possible. What we found, and I think this is natural in humans using tools and then learning how to get the most out of the tools, advisors have started to change the way that they structure their meetings because there's the feedback loop
mm,
between introspecting on the conversation that they had. And so they're seeing opportunities, they're seeing ways that they could communicate better given what the AI is feeding back. And then they're going back, reflecting on how to have a better conversation, doing that, and then they've got the feedback, the flywheel going of how
yeah.
effectively how to become a better advisor.
Yeah, it's a training tool, and you can use it as a you can pick out. And I think I mean, it's wonderful for all advisors, but I would imagine for relatively new advisors, where you can go back and go over a meeting recording and interact with the AI and say, how did that basically, how did it go? What did we miss? What questions should I have asked? Are there any areas where I could have interrogated a little bit further? Brilliant for role play afterwards as well. You could take the conversation and literally role play with it.
Mm, very much so. Yeah.
So, when an advisor comes on board with you or wants to come on board with you, what's the kind of process? How does it work? Is there some sort of trial or and how about training? I mean, training's relatively easy, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. And I'll just yeah, these so the way that it works is that we typically have an onboarding call with everybody. It's a very concierge process right now.
Mhm.
Sit down, understand people's process and how we can fit in and roll out to that. We obviously work with one-man bands all the way up to 250 plus advisor firms. And so the rollout process typically looks quite different, but it's usually identifying the key people in the firm who are already quite excited about adopting AI. Usually there's some, and we'll sit on a call with them and we'll get them fully set up. We'll connect their accounts, their calendars, so it pulls through all of your upcoming meetings. It makes it very, very easy to sync with all of your meetings and download the apps, get you signed in. But we've really tried to make this very, very simple to use. So once you've done that, you've connected your calendars, you've downloaded the apps, the actual process of recording any of your meetings is quite seamless. Um, and
So
that's
brass
that's
brass
that's
tacks there. They literally, you can take your mobile phone with you to the meeting, hit record, and away we go.
Exactly right. The in-person meetings are mobile apps that you click record and just put between you and the clients. And the virtual meetings, once it's synced with your calendar and you've determined which meetings you want, it just all happens automatically. All you need to do is show up to the meeting, conduct your meeting, and you'll get an email within 3 minutes of the meeting concluding with a link to those meeting notes. There are a few additional things that we didn't go over there because we just hit the highlight reel.
Yeah.
You can turn the meeting notes into a structured document, the beginnings of suitability letters, um, branded meeting notes that you want to send to clients after the meeting. We do work with you to build a template for what that looks like on a firm by firm basis. So there's a bit of setup there, but again, it's all very hand holding. We sit down, work with you, figure out what you want that template to look like, and get it uploaded to our system. It also integrates with back office solutions, but that's very simple. You just click a few buttons and go through the usual connection process, and it's pretty easy to use. But like I say, we offer a full onboarding call with anybody that's interested, in which we'll go through all of this.
Any particular back office systems that it integrates particularly well with? I mean,
yeah, I always a focus just because of its market share. But Xplan and Planner are the next two in the pipeline.
Fantastic, interesting. From your perspective, I guess you must be picking up quite a bit of data yourselves now, in terms of how advisors are using this and approaching this. Do you have any particular observations that you might want to share as to how you see this is being used? Are any advisors missing tricks, or are you seeing any particularly good best practice? What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest one has been exactly what we just touched on. We thought this was a meeting note-taking tool that's reduced the time it takes you to write meeting notes, which is no small thing. Obviously, anybody that's conducted 2 meetings across 2 client homes in one day and had to scroll those notes, drive back to the office, and then write up full meeting notes after, a potential multi-hour break from that first meeting, remember all of the key details, that's asking a lot. Now, doing that entirely automatically, it is a big deal. But it's introspecting on the conversation and looking at, how am I communicating? Is the client understanding exactly what I'm saying? Okay, how can I adjust my patterns of speech, getting the client to repeat what they heard back to me? And then the AI shows the client very clearly understood what you were saying because they did XYZ. Great. Identifying client vulnerabilities, asking the right questions to tease stuff out, just generally introspecting on the conversation and using it as a learning flywheel to effectively become a better conversationalist. Mm-hmm. That has become one of the biggest unexpected benefits that we keep hearing from people that adopt the software.
Really interesting, really interesting. So just out of interest, just turning it over to everyone, do we have any Posterity users here on the chat? Any particular feedback, ideas, thoughts, observations, or indeed questions if you're not using it?
Elliott.
Sue. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Sue.
Elliott. Hi, Elliott. Hi. On the horizon, are you moving into creation of reports? Fact finds? Are you filling fact finds in, and will you be moving into suitability reports?
Yes. So the tool already provides the means to generate any document output that you can build in Microsoft Word from the meeting notes. And so people currently use it to get a portion of the way there with their suitability letters, because it's not a fully fledged, mature suitability letter or annual review report generator as of right now. Obviously, you would need to pull in information from other sources to do that entire job with us. And that is what we're moving towards right now. Yes.
So to pull in the information for those reports, you will use the back office. So you'll use IO or whoever. If you have a firm that is part of a network, the security around that is very different to a singular firm. So how are you going to get around that? Because in a network scenario, the firms are all shut down singularly. So the life cycles are created differently to a standalone firm. So how are you going to get around that because you won't have access to the full deck of data, if you like, of MI, purely of the fact because of the security sitting around it, so it's not available to everybody?
Yeah, this is something that we've had to learn. We've It obviously depends on the back office solution. It depends on the network. We've seen so many different setups. They sort of run the entire gamut. But if you use something like IO, obviously it's a multi-tenanted solution. Within the tenant, each individual user has access to that block of data that they need to be able to do their job. That advisor has access to all of the information necessary to produce the suitability letters and annual review reports for their particular client base. When you want to go a level higher and do insights at the organizational level, obviously then that is not available on a per advisor basis when you're dealing with some of these large corporate entities. And so we're seeing this. We're also now exploring this multi-tenanted login where sort of corporate has one view as they would in IO, and then the individual advisors have one view. But very much still in the infancy of figuring out exactly what these solutions look like, and we're working with a number of firms on those things now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Elliott.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sue.
As an industry / profession, we do make it as hard as we possibly can for everyone to kind of benefit from these tools. We got anybody else who wants to ask anything at this particular moment? Just unmute yourself if there's anything you fancy saying. So, Elliott, just kind of thinking, going back to where we started. Now let's imagine the financial advice world in, say, 5 years. That's a long way off in those in 5 years' time. How do you see the industry, the professional looking, and how do you see your role in that?
Yeah, so I attended Advisor 3.0 recently, and there was a few great slides that I pilfered. This was obviously a really hot topic, a key area of discussion, and you guys can't see this. Frustratingly, I had teed up a bit of kit that had these slides in, and I've been trying to use them as we talk, and my text failed on me. Let's see if I can screen share this thing instead. Yeah, so there was a discussion from Abraham at Timeline, and he threw up a slide exactly on this question. And admittedly, this wasn't some deep research study that was conducted. This was just asking AI itself, where do you think that the industry is going? And you can see this diagram here, where on the right-hand axis, the x-axis, we've got the probability of AI automation. And on the x-axis, we've got in level of investable wealth, and on the y-axis, we've got probability of AI automation. And we've got a bunch of areas of sort of wealth management, financial planning. And we can see right there in the top that even them as an asset manager is saying that investment management's getting increasingly commoditized. If running investment decisions is a matter of looking at historical data, understanding trends, where things are heading so that you can make your bets on any particular asset at any particular moment in time. Obviously, an AI is infinitely better at processing those kind of data sources that a human is going to be. And so investment management in a key area for probability of AI automation. And as it moves down, we have a lot more of the touchy-feely things. So right down there at the bottom, life transitions, divorce, business exit, care, things where human empathy and connection are really, really important. And then you can see there everything in between. And there was a great talk from Dr. Daniel Crosby, who sent me his slides with his permission. And he talked about, what do people want in a financial advisor? This is a report that was conducted by Accenture, and they were talking about someone who gets me, someone who has shared values. These are the kind of things that these aren't quantifiable metrics. Why do clients leave? 80% are for poor service or relationship reasons, only 13% for investment performance reasons. You made the point that those clients are probably the headache clients that do you want them anyway, the one that's bothering you every time there's a bit of market movement. And I think ultimately, when we look at it, this was people asked where do they place emphasis on the value of their client, and you see the behavioral coaching outpaced all of the other technical areas on the left by many orders of magnitude. And so what I think is going to happen is AI is going to eat into an increasing amount of the technical stuff that we do. You know, all of these inputs equal this output. This client has all of these circumstances and the technical details. And so here's the technical details of the advice that they need to be given to maximize their tax optimization or whatever it is. But the human wrapper on top of that, the empathy, the establishing a human connection, feeling like we have the same values, someone who just gets me, that's the area that I think advisors really need to lean into. And so there's this quote from a wealth management report with McKinsey, which is in the next 10 years, advisors will gradually shed their roles as investment managers and become more like integrated life wealth coaches, you know, whatever that means. But it's certainly, whatever it means, it feels like something that's very touchy, feely. And, you know, I think this is just an evolution of where we've seen financial planning anyway. This industry has went on such a journey from, you know, being, you know, stockbrokers and product pushers to the planners that we are now, this full holistic life planner. And I think it's just a continued evolution of that as we go deep on, you know, the human behavioral aspect of money.
Really interesting you say that. Only yesterday, Unbiased quoted, according to Uncork, I think they spell, up to 80% of heirs plan to change financial advisors after inheriting wealth.
Mm.
I know in the United States they're taking that very, very seriously and they're trying to look into all sorts of things. And I'm just wondering if AI might have a part to play in how we address that. I know there are a lot of financial advisors who say, well, I'm not that fussed because I'll be retired by the time that happens, but it is happening now, isn't it?
Well, I think a big part of that shift, the great wealth transfer, if we believe that that's happening, is, you know, a lot of money is ending up in the hands of people who are a lot younger, who are used to ordering groceries from an app in the palm of their hand, ordering taxis from the app in the palm of their hand. And so if you have a advice process and experience that's very misaligned with the expectations of a new generation of consumers, you want them to fill in a 20-page PDF and come down to the office to, you know, do some simple tasks. You know, those clients are just looking for something that aligns with their sort of digital first way of viewing the world. And so I think AI really lends itself to be able to deliver experiences that are more aligned with that next generation of consumers. Yes.
That's so true. Just before Christmas last year, OpenAI quietly announced that you can now engage with ChatGPT through WhatsApp. And you can add ChatGPT as a contact. In the United States, you can actually phone up ChatGPT and have a chat with them over WhatsApp. You can't quite do that yet here in the UK, but you can add ChatGPT as a contact. Now, I kind of thought, oh, that's interesting. Then I really got thinking, I thought, that is seriously profound and a really, really important moment, because 79% of the adult UK population use WhatsApp every day. And if you can just, as you say, from the palm of your hand, you can chat with ChatGPT through WhatsApp. 1 minute you're talking to your daughter, the next minute you're talking to ChatGPT. And I just tried it straight away, and I put in something and said, "Hi ChatGPT, I'm a dentist. I'm 3 years off retirement. I'm quite got my ducks in a row. What should I be doing?" And like in a second, it sent me a three-page report, which was pretty good, to be quite honest. And I posted about this on LinkedIn, and it's had 60,000 views. Most of them were on Christmas Day. When people start realizing just how profound some of this stuff is, and I kind of go back to where we start when we say one of the scenarios might be that financial advisors disappear. I don't believe that for a moment, but there are many people who do. So yeah, it's really interesting. But we are where we are. Anybody else got a final question that we want to throw at Elliott? I'm liking that we've got a QR code up on the screen. That's excellent. So how can we get in touch with you, Elliott? If people want to talk to you, where do they go? And what else do people need to know?
Yeah, so we're available at posterity.finance. The simplest way, if you're interested in exploring using our tools to make your firm more efficient, is just to scan the QR code that's up on the screen right now. That'll just take you through to a booking link to book some time in with my business partner, Jamie, who can sit down with you and give you a full one-on-one conversation, go deep, answer any of the questions that may have not cropped up here, but you think of between now and then. And that's the simplest way to do that.
Fabulous. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Really interesting to hear your thoughts about where we're going on with this generally and what Posterity can do right now. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for turning up today. Nice to see a few familiar faces, which is great. Thanks for giving up your time. We'll make sure you get a copy of this. And as I said, any questions that you have for Elliott, please do get in touch. So thanks again, Elliott. Much appreciated. Great to see you. And thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you on the next one of these 6 webinars that we're doing, and we'll be in touch about that soon. So thanks again. Take care, everyone.
Thanks all. Take care.